established in 2012, headquartered in Hyderabad, provides turnkey solar energy solutions from concept to commissioning for solar PV and also operation and maintenance services throughout the lifetime of the project. Developing cost-effective solutions with optimal design practices with short execution timelines is their prime motto. In partnership with global leaders having rich experience in solar industry, Renan Solar addresses both the off-grid and utility scale projects nationwide. So with that, may we now invite upon Mr. Venkat Gupta, and the topic would be electricity projections and solar power future in India and implementation challenges. Thank you.
We not talking much about our company. Our company details were very much elaborated by the gentle lady there. So in the limited time we have, I'll talk as much as possible about the Indian electricity market in general and solar market in specific. So before understanding the challenges being faced by the Indian power market, let me just brief about key statistics of Indian power market. So if you look at the installed capacity of the power in India, in past 8 years, the installed capacity has doubled. So as good as your bank deposit, you put money in your bank, approximately 70, 80, it gets double. Right, so if you look at 97, the total installed capacity in India, 1997 was about 80,000 megawatt, translate to gigawatt, 80 gigawatt, and today it is to 88 gigawatt. And I've given a brief mixture of the generation. You've got thermal, hydel, and other renewable. Thermal has both coal and LPG as well. So if you look at the GDP growth in the corresponding period, let us say in past 8 to 10 years, our overall GDP growth is about 60 to 70% compared to the overall installed capacity growth of almost 100%. And unfortunately, our growth, GDP growth in past say 10 years, unfortunately or fortunately, I'll leave it to the audience. So the growth is primarily attributed to the service sector. So now our manufacturing sector needs more power. Service sector needs less power when you compare it with the value terms. But our growth is more on service, but power is more than double than the GDP. So conclusion, you've got so much idle capacity. Majority of the people and most of the people, almost everyone thinks India is a power deficit country, but it's not correct. India is a power surplus country. I'll detail in the coming slides. Right, so this is a brief sources, contribution of each sources to the total 288 gigawatt of installed capacity that we have. Majority of the power coming from coal, about 176 gigawatt, and to some extent LPG, about 8%, 24 gigawatt, and nuclear 5 gigawatt, which is about 2%, and hydro 43 gigawatt, which is about 15%, and renewable energy sources includes wind, solar, biomass, bagasse, etc., etc., contributes to about 14%. So today we have about 14% of total installed capacity coming from the renewable sources. Let me just give a brief about the regional generation. So in India we have about 5 zones. Right? One is the western zone in electricity perspective, not the state boundaries wise. So in the electricity perspective, you've got western zone, you've got southern zone, you've got eastern, northeastern, and northern zone. So basically these are the grids, these are the clusters of the grids connected to each other, and the power flow within the grid is easy, but power flow between the grids is challenged. This is constrained by the transmission line network availability. Right? So if you look at majority of the power is in western, about 36% of the power generation is coming from the western zone, which includes your Bombay, your Karnataka. So I'll give the details about it in the next slides. If you look at the breakup of the renewable power, about 14% is the total contribution by the renewable power. Majority of it is coming from the wind power. So about say 65% of Indian installed capacity is coming from the wind, and biopower, which includes biomass, waste to energy, that contributes to about 12%, and solar is about 13%. So we'll talk about solar in detail in the coming slides. And small hydro has two variants to it. Hydro, in general, hydro means a big hydropower plants like the ones you have on Srisailam, like the ones you have at Nagarjuna Sagar. But the small hydro is only categorized as the renewable power. Small hydro is a capacity where the total installed capacity is less than 25 megawatts. So anything above 25 megawatt is not renewable. So these are the numbers with respect to Indian power market. So now let us just discuss about the challenges being faced by the Indian electricity market. As I said in the beginning, India is a power surplus country with huge idle capacity. But unfortunately, this is the irony of it, much of the rural India has no power. And India has the lowest per capita consumption when you rationalize with the GDP. India, I'm sure many of us know, India is number 3 when you compare the GDP ratings with respect to the PPP, purchasing power parity. But if you look at the generation wise, India is on the 5th rank. But if you look at the consumption per capita, India stands at somewhere around 100 or 120, 125th rank. It's very. So, and an average, an individual needs about 745 kilowatt hour in a year. This is a yearly consumption. So, an Indian needs 745 kilowatt hour compared to US 14,000 kilowatt hour per year. And Russia 7,000, I'm sorry, China 4,000. So India has, when you compare it with the GDP number 3, but per capita consumption 120 or 140th rank. So we're consuming much less when we compare with our counterparts. So now it's a matter of proud that we are giving less carbon emissions into the world when you compare it in a per capita basis. The biggest problem today is we have surplus power in one zone. We've just talked about 5 zones in the previous slides. There is surplus power in one zone and there's deficit in other zone. So if you look at southern power, southern zone, like your Andhra Pradesh, parts of Karnataka, parts of Tamil Nadu, there's a huge deficit power on IEX. So if you look at the average price, sellable price of electricity in northern zone, it is 1 rupee, 1.2 rupee, sometimes 2 rupees. But if you look at a southern zone, in the same period, it will be 8 rupees and 9 rupees. So now, probably something went wrong during the planning. When the planning commission was planning for the installed capacity, it was not done properly. Or probably the load has grown much more than anticipated in the southern zone. But the respective growth has not happened in the other zones where the power is surplus. So because of surplus in one zone, deficit in other zone, the entire network is haywire. Some nodes as in electricity, when I say node, it's a generating point or a substation. Some nodes has so much power. When you have so much power, you have so much high voltage. Some nodes have less power, so you have less voltage. So now grid is also not stable. You have some high voltage, some low voltage. Because of this, I'm sure many of us know about 2012 blackout in North India. Complete northern grid has failed. When the fundamental principle of electricity is when you generate, you consume. You can't store it. So you generate more, but you're not able to consume at that instance, the grid voltage goes up. But if you generate less, but you're consuming more, the grid voltage drops. So now the frequency at which the grid can operate is about 50, as per Indian standards today, 50 hertz. So if it goes down below 49.5 or goes above 50.5, the grid collapses. So because of these imbalances in the power generation and the consumption, we are seeing these blackouts or grid collapses. And probably everybody can ask, if there is a problem, one node experiencing high power, other node experiencing low power, why can't we connect these two networks? So the efforts are going on. There are transmission line constraints. So now if you have to send power from one zone to other zone, you need the transmission lines to transmit the power. So now there are constraints in connectivity of these zones, over which the Ministry of Power, the central government has been working continuously. And by the time unfortunately they check out a plan and they do the completion of the transmission line, again some other imbalance is coming. So it's a continuous process of matching your generation with the load. And another issue is mismatch between the generation capacity addition and the delays in the transmission line network. So now you anticipate, say, 1,000 gigawatt of load coming in Hyderabad. Unfortunately, the owner of the company said, no, I will not put it in Hyderabad, I'll go to Maharashtra. So now the load which is anticipated to come in Telangana is going to Maharashtra. So now these are business dynamics which where the power ministry has no control. So now there is always a mismatches in the anticipated generation and the anticipated load that is coming up in the area, which is causing the imbalances. And the next big issue is with respect to hydro and nuclear. So now we have significant developments happened in the hydro for past, say, 8-9 years. It has almost doubled, more than doubled in hydro. But there are restrictions with respect to hydro development. So India can't basically depend on hydro because the most of the hydro potential, so many people talk about hydro potential of 145 gigawatts. Unfortunately, the hydro potential is concentrated around Nepal, Bhutan, Uttar Pradesh, Uttaranchal. So if you have to look at the geography, the biggest constraint for development of hydro is geography. If I can go back to the geography, if you allow me, the whole of Earth's crust is made up of plates. So you have 7, 8 plates. It's called plate tectonics, right? So the plates continuously move. There are 7 plates around the world. The plates continuously move. Now this Nepal, Nepal, Bhutan, Uttarakhand, this entire Himachal belt is a plate boundary. So there's an Indian plate, there's a Eurasian plate. So these two plates converge here. It's called continent-continent conversion, and the mightiest of the mountains, Himalayas, are formed. So 80% of your whole hydro potential is concentrated in this region, your Himachal, Himadri, and lesser Himalayas. So if you look at the recent things that are happening in Nepal, it's an earthquake zone. It's an earthquake prone zone. I mean, all the continent-continent convergence zones across the globe. You look at Japan, you look at US, you look at Andes in the southern America. So all the continent edges are earthquake prone zones. So now when you put a 1000 megawatt hydro plant in earthquake prone zone, what happens? I mean, if there is an earthquake, the complete towns will be wiped off. Complete towns will be wiped off. So now the Ministry of Power has taken a cognizant view on development or deployment of hydropower in these earthquake prone zones. So the wonderfully talked about 145 gigawatt of hydro potential today translates to probably 60-70 gigawatts of hydro potential, of which we have already exhausted 45 to 50 gigawatts of hydro potential. So now if you look at our Indian growth in a hydro perspective, we have hardly anything left. So 20-25% of hydro potential which is untapped. So we can't depend much on hydro because of this reason. And if you look at potential nuclear capacity addition, there are sentimental facts, and to understand the challenges in nuclear, we have to look at history. Japan, so-called Japan, which is advanced with respect to the nuclear technology. I don't know how many of you heard about Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident, which recently happened. So advanced countries, or probably countries which have advanced technologies in nuclear plants, are facing so complicated nuclear accidents. So how about the situation of India? Unfortunately, sorry to say, India don't have our own nuclear technology. So we're borrowing either from, we don't have any local domestic cryogenics engine, we don't have any nuclear boilers manufactured in India, or we have very little, trivial, not to talk about. So we all import from outside. So we don't have the technology. We are depending on the technology that is imported from outside. So there are apprehensions about that technology and possible nuclear accidents. So that's why there is a limitation with respect to the nuclear development. I mean, there's a funny thing that was talked in many of the discussions when we sit across with the power experts. Everybody wants the nuclear power, but they don't want it in their town, or they don't want it in their village. So now I hardly see probably another 5 gigawatt. Today we have 5 gigawatt, another 5 gigawatt or 10 gigawatt on experimental basis coming in India in next, say, decade or 2 decades. But I don't think we can depend much on the nuclear for our Indian development. Uncertainty in the load growth, as I've discussed. The biggest problem today is the poor and old, outdated communication infrastructure for grid balancing. I've just talked about generation and consumption. So you need to have generation, and at the same time you need to have the consumption. If there is a mismatch, the government, there's a people called SLDC, State Load Dispatch Center. So their job is only to match your generation and the consumption. So they have